Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog, which, as usual, because of the delay between the time I record these vlogs and the time that you see them, I'm going to be talking about old news, so I'm not really delivering news. Well, that's not completely true. I do have one item here that you may not be aware of that I think is important, but the main topic I'm going to talk about is Trump's speech in reaction to the missiles that Iran fired on a couple of our bases in Iraq. I have a couple of insights that I want to give to everybody, but I do want to start out with a couple of smaller items. One of them not so small, but the first one, the impeachment circus. This is going to be another quick impeachment circus update, not enough to do a whole vlog on. It looks like Senate Democrats are starting to get fed up with Nancy Pelosi. Well, here's the headline. Put the headline up as usual. Quote, send them over, unquote. Dianne Feinstein tells Pelosi to end delay over articles of impeachment. Senator Dianne Feinstein broke ranks with fellow San Francisco Democrat Nancy Pelosi when she urged the House Speaker to end her blockade of the Senate trial to adjudicate impeachment charges against President Trump. Senate Democrats are beginning to lose their patience with Pelosi's maneuver. The intervention of Feinstein, 86, saying bluntly that the time had come for Pelosi to transmit the impeachment articles to the Senate, makes it highly likely that her fellow Californian will do so. Quote, if we're going to do it, she should send them over, unquote, Feinstein said, according to a tweet posted by Laura Litvan of Bloomberg News. Quote, I don't see what good delay does, unquote. So I said Senate Democrats. That's just one Democrat, Dianne Feinstein. But in another article, which I'm not going to bother to quote from other Democratic senators, well, I'll give you the list here. Doug Jones of Alabama, Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal, both of Connecticut, and Angus King. Well, Angus King is not a Democrat. He's an independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats, so for all practical purposes, he's a Democrat too. All of these senators, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Democrats, one nominal Democrat, an independent, all these non-Republicans, 5 non-Republican senators are now calling on Nancy Pelosi to quit fooling around, to send over the articles of impeachment or not. So if she continues not to do so, then I can see at least some Democrats, perhaps Doug Jones, who is very vulnerable. I won't go into a lot of detail why. He's a very vulnerable Democrat in Alabama. Well, you say Democrat Alabama, that pretty much tells you the story right there. But I am guessing that he would join with the Republicans to just dismiss the charges if Nancy Pelosi doesn't send them over. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't see Chuck Schumer changing his mind, but there are other ones, to her credit, Dianne Feinstein, who are saying enough. It does no good to delay these articles. The second item I want to get to today, it's a technical, well, it's Israel, and it's a technical achievement that I think has great potential for us too. It's one of the advantages of our alliances with Israel because they are such a technical powerhouse, especially when you consider how small that country is. They're about the size of New Jersey. Here's the headline: Israel unveils breakthrough laser to intercept missiles, aerial threats. The Defense Ministry has made a technological breakthrough in the development of lasers that can intercept aerial threats, including rockets and anti-tank guided missiles, it announced Wednesday. New laser technology, quote, makes the security apparatus more lethal, more powerful, and more advanced, unquote, Defense Minister Naftali Bennett said Wednesday evening. Quote, this is a dramatic solution to rocket fire, unquote, said Duby Oster, head of the DDR&D Optronics Department. Quote, we have been working on this for years, but it is challenging to get a good quality beam to stay the size you need at the range you need. For example, a beam the diameter of a coin from here in Tel Aviv to Herzliya, unquote. According to Oster, the ministry was able to take several laser beams and, with an advanced algorithm, connect them to get one strong beam that is able to intercept and take down a variety of threats. Based on high-energy electric lasers rather than chemical laser technology, the robust system will complement the other layers of Israel's aerial defenses and will be a strategic change in the defense capabilities of the state, the ministry said. According, and this is the important part coming up here, according to Brigadier General Yaniv Rotem, some of the advantages of the high-energy lasers include the ability to continually use the system at lower cost, higher effectiveness, and with efficient management. Quote, during a war, missile interceptors will at one point run out, but with this system, as long as you have electricity, you have a never-ending supply, unquote, he said. Quote, this is a weapon that you can't see or hear, unquote, Rotem said, adding that while it is not free since it runs on electricity, every interception will cost only a few dollars, as opposed to interceptor missiles that can run into the thousands. The use of two different and complementary technologies, kinetic air defense-like systems such as Iron Dome and laser platforms, quote, is a game changer, unquote, Rotem said. This is something that has worried me. Well, it would concern the Israelis, but also us too. We have our Patriot missiles, which I think it costs $1 million per missile, at least per. And I think it costs $1 million per missile. Those are the big Patriot missiles. I don't know what the larger Israeli interceptors cost, but I think the Iron Dome system, that's their smaller interceptor system, in case you're not familiar with it. I think those cost $50,000 each one, 50,000 American dollars each one. So you have Hezbollah with 150,000 missiles. The expense is too great. You can't afford enough missiles to shoot them all down. Well, no country, I don't think even we could afford at 50,000 pop enough missiles to shoot down that many missiles. I mean, they couldn't launch them all at once, but you still, as Rotem says, you run out of missiles after a while because each one, once it's fired, then it's gone. 1,000 missiles come at you at once, but lasers, they operate at the speed of light, number one. It costs only a few dollars, so if you figure 50,000 for each physical missile, and we're not even talking about the Patriots, so how many shots could you get off at a few dollars a shot? Also, the article doesn't say how many shots you can get off, how fast, how long it takes to roast a missile till you disable it or destroy it, but I can envision a future time when one launcher could launch multiple beams at a single push of a button and take down any number of missiles. So if you're Israel and you're talking about Hezbollah, that is really their only offensive capability. They were spending millions of dollars and literally decades building tunnels, Hamas too, in Gaza, building all these tunnels that the Israelis find and destroy. And then how many soldiers can you get through a tunnel at one time before the soldiers are discovered by the Israelis? And, well, just as a general proposition, Hezbollah is no match. I'm just talking about them because they have the most missiles and the deadliest missiles, and they may be getting precision missiles, which makes it even more imperative that Israel have means of shooting them down. But they are no match for Israel in land war. Their only offensive capability is these missiles. If the Israelis can shoot down any number of missiles at one time and be able to detect them electronically and react at the speed of light, if they can say to Hezbollah, just fire as many missiles as you want, spend all the money you want on missiles, we don't care, we can shoot them all down, you can't do anything to us anymore, and then Hezbollah is no threat. But for us, well, just look at what happened in Iraq only a few days ago. Iran launched how many? I think there was a maximum of 15 missiles. 15 missiles with a system like the one that the Israelis just created. We could shoot down all those missiles before they even got here. Maybe we could have even shot them down while they were still over Iran. So you see the potential. I am very hopeful. I am looking forward to seeing this develop further. In fact, I could even see a day when we can shoot down Russian ICBMs and hypersonic missiles, because those move so fast that you may need a laser to shoot them down, something that operates at the speed of light. But I could see, once we have that system, and if Israel has it, I could see the Russians having it one day, and I could see the Chinese having it one day, and then we could foresee a day when nuclear weapons would be obsolete. As far as missiles go, the only thing to worry about after that would be Iran or some bad actor putting a nuke on a boat and sailing it into a harbor. That would still be a big worry. But you can see the day coming when nuclear war would be obsolete, and all of us, both us and the Chinese and the Russians, the entire world, we would all be so much safer. So I am very optimistic. I hope that progress continues on this system. Now, I want to end by just talking a little bit about Trump's speech. I'm going to actually play for you a portion of the speech. I linked to the whole speech. You may have seen the whole thing, but I linked to both a video and the text of the speech in the description, so you can go there and watch the whole thing. It's actually only 10 minutes, the speech. But the important part for me alluded to something that I had said a few days ago in one of my vlogs. So look at the video and come back for my comments.
For far too long, all the way back to 1979 to be exact, nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over.
What you just heard Trump say, that is what I have been saying, that we have been in a war with Iran since 1979, when they raided our embassy and took 52 Americans hostage. It's taken this long. We have given Iran a pretty free hand for those 40 years. We've been attacked by proxies, and maybe we've gone after some of their proxies, but we never directly attacked. The Israelis have. They've attacked Iranian assets in Syria, but I don't know if we have, but we definitely have not responded the way Trump did against Soleimani. That is, to me, a very welcome development. As you saw in that speech, those days are over. Iran no longer gets plausible deniability, or what I would call it implausible deniability. They cannot anymore operate through proxies and pretend that they had nothing to do with it or suffer no consequences themselves. Iran ordered one of their proxies to attack our embassy. Trump killed one of the most, well, probably the most important Iranian military officer. But before he did that, and that was his red line, killing an American, he did not do anything when they shot down drones. He did not do anything when they bombed a Saudi oil field. I want to address this idea that Trump acts impulsively. His critics, at least the ones on the left, they say that Trump needs to listen to his military leaders, and I think that's exactly what he did. I don't think it was his idea to take out Soleimani. I think it was an urging by the military brass. They said that he should do it, and he listened to them. Also, the method of response, I don't think he's like Lyndon Johnson, who very famously during the Vietnam War, he would sit in the Oval Office and decide which targets he would let the military bomb. I suspect that Obama, well, we know he didn't listen because remember Afghanistan. We have critics on the left saying, why are we stuck in Afghanistan? Why haven't we won in Afghanistan? One reason that nobody mentions, I guess they forgot, that I will mention because I remember very well, General Stanley McChrystal requested 40,000 troops from Barack Obama. Barack Obama dithered for months, and finally he sent 16,000 troops. So if you want to know one big reason why we are where we are today in Afghanistan, because Obama ignored the advice of the general who was there in Afghanistan, ignored his request to send 40,000 troops. He sent less than 40,000. He sent only 16,000. Trump, I think, listens to his military commanders. I think that they pick the targets. When Trump says that he has 52 targets lined up, that the military, the Pentagon, picked those targets, not Trump. I don't think he went down a list and said, okay, bomb this, bomb that, bomb the other thing. This is one of the things that irritates me about the press, that they are so biased that they misinterpret what he says. When he says that among the targets would be some sites that are of cultural value to Iran, he was immediately accused of planning to bomb cultural sites in violation of international law. I don't believe that for a minute. If you listen closely to what he said assets of cultural value. Now, under international law, when they say you can't bomb or destroy a cultural site, it's very specific. It means religious sites, such as a church or a mosque, obviously, or a historical site, an ancient site that has great historical or cultural value. But there are modern, well, I don't know enough about the geography of Iran to name particular modern sites that have cultural value. But as an example, I would use something that memorializes the 1979 revolution that brought the mullahs to power. I could see how that would have great cultural value to some Iranians, to the mullahs, but I don't consider that a quote-unquote cultural site that you can't bomb. Or in Iraq, I could give you an example of what you've probably seen in photos, the two crossed swords over a road. I would not consider that something that could not be destroyed, or a statue of Saddam Hussein. Anything that is like that, I don't consider that a cultural site that cannot be bombed. But the main point is that Trump did not pick out any of those 52 targets. I am sure the military did. And as Mike Pompeo said the other day when he gave a press conference, their lawyers went over all of those sites. The Pentagon has lawyers. They went over those sites to make sure that they comported with international law. This is the part that drives me crazy, that they think Trump just shoots from the hip. I think he has shown remarkable restraint, very exemplary restraint so far. He acts when he has to. He makes his red lines very clear, and he listens to his military officers. So at the end of the day, I think these criticisms of Trump are unjustified, and a lot of people just, well, as it's been shown repeatedly, a lot of people just hate him. It's that simple. Nothing he does will ever be right or legitimate in the eyes of some people. Now I want to close by addressing a comment that I got a few days ago, or following up on it. You may recall, if you've been watching my vlogs for a while, that I had a request or a question from Turbo Jones, I think it was, to talk about diplomacy. What is diplomacy? How does it work? I think we have here a very good, a textbook example, I would say, of diplomacy, because according to one report, the Iranians sent a message to Trump through the Swiss that that rocket attack was their only response, that they would not attack any further in order to avoid an escalation. Trump understood that no Americans would be killed, and they weren't. It was just a token response. I mean, it was really meaningless. So the people who are characterizing the end of this whole affair as a complete victory for Trump, they are right. Those missiles did minimal damage. Nobody was killed. No Americans were killed. No Americans were even wounded. But because of the way it was done, well, imagine, or I can imagine, what would have happened or what could have happened had the whole process taken place publicly, had there been no private under-the-table message from the Iranians. Then Trump would have to wonder whether that rocket attack was the total response or the beginning of a much larger response. Not knowing that, he would have probably had to order our Air Force to destroy all the missile launching sites in Iran, which would have put Iran in a position of having to save face and having to respond. It could have escalated. And maybe it would have had to if the Iranians had said privately through the Swiss that that rocket attack was just the beginning, or that if Trump responds that Iran would do this, that, or the other thing. But the way it was done, it prevented a needless escalation that might have happened had Trump not known that that attack would be the only attack. And it was something that Iran might have felt that they could not publicly have said that this was our only response, because it was really a nothing response. It would have left them with egg on their face. It just was better for diplomats to handle it under the table, behind the scenes. That's what diplomacy is. It allows people to act one way publicly while other events are happening in private. And if the diplomacy doesn't work, well, that is the advantage of having a strong president and a strong military. We then have the military option. But if there's a chance to solve something diplomatically, why not do it? So I hope that enlightened Turbo Jones and other of you who may be wondering about diplomacy. That was a perfect example, I believe, of diplomacy. And this is a perfect example of asking you to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? You can put them in the comment section below the video. You can also put in the comment section any questions you might have or suggestions for future topics. You can subscribe. I love getting subscribers, so subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.